Hello, I am Coach Coleman here at Better Youth Solutions. A little bit about myself. I am a life coach and a social worker at heart for over 6 years. I enjoy everything that I do, even with my youth mentoring program. And let's just get a bit more information about our guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you have to offer?
I'd be happy to. I'm Verlaine Crawford, and Dr. Verlaine Crawford. I have received this year a wonderful honorary doctorate degree in humanitarianism. I have been teaching and working with people as a consultant, as a coach, for many, many years, and I have it had a fascinating background where I was a vice president of high-tech companies. I did consulting to Fortune 500 companies, and I was doing marketing, a lot of marketing, advertising, public relations. And the idea at that time as a communicator was to give them information that would help create a vision of yourself, right? Or a vision of your product. And so that's what I see in our everyday lives, or the lives that we would like to have in our that we are creating ourselves in a new way, perhaps, that we would like to be known as. So it's interesting. One of the things that happened to me when in 1987 is I had been studying spiritual information and the idea that our thoughts create our reality. And I was practicing it all the time. And, I read the Course in Miracles. I just read a lot of information. And through a series of events, I opened up to other dimensions, which meaning that I used my intuition all the time, right? And was able, especially like with the job with as the vice president of, I was one of the first women vice president of a high-tech company, which was amazing because I didn't know anything about computers at that time. That was 1982. The personal computer had just come out. And so I knew that people could bring through information, or had seen that or heard about it, right? And I went into the ladies' room when I was going to my first big meeting with the investors. And I said, when I go in that meeting, speak through me. I need help. And there was nowhere you could really study how to market computers, right? Because it didn't exist. And it was fascinating because all this information started flowing through me. And it's like, this is where we should put our marketing materials, and this is how we should do our ads, and this is how we should do, so many different things. The booth at Comdex, all this stuff. So what I try to help people do is open up to that availability or connectivity to a universal consciousness. And I call it universal AI, except it's not artificial. We have ability to contact far beyond our normal way of thinking, because when we're just using our mind, we're using the past. We're using the things we've learned, the beliefs that we've accumulated. And so I've written a book recently. I have 6 books that I've written. The first one was called Ending the Battle Within. And I was looking at how we could bring together all the different parts of ourselves that often are arguing within us. In fact, I like to say that we're captain of our ship, master of our fate. That's what we think we are, right? Except I see it as a pirate ship. And the crew is planning mutiny, And so the idea is to get in touch with those different parts of ourselves and to talk to them and say, what are you doing for me from stopping me from having all the money I need? What are you doing for me to keeping the love of my life away? The person that I'd really like to have in my life that I don't know yet. What am I doing to keep my health? What are you doing for me to make me not feel good? Right. And it turns out that there are parts of us, I call them subpersonalities. Those parts of us think they're helping us. They always think they're helping us, even if they're making us sick. Why? Because they have an idea that it's helping us in some way. And that, and often, especially with our health, is to escape a situation. that we don't know how any other way to do that. So it has been a fascinating journey for me. I had a number of things happen to me, but the most important, that was the most devastating, was getting stabbed in a parking garage and by an assailant that I didn't know. And he stabbed me in the back and my lung collapsed. And luckily,
Oh,
two
wow.
people came in and came out of the elevator and saved me. So what happened was I ended up in a class about 5 years later. I went into total fear, being around people.
Yeah.
And I went to this class, a neurolinguistics programming class. Neurolinguistics programming is how we use our mind and our language to create our lives.
Yeah.
And they did the integration technique with me. And oh my gosh, it shifted my whole life. And that's what I wrote about in The Power of Wholeness, my latest book, because it's just so important that we understand how to bring these parts of us together. Do you have any questions for me at this point?
No, you are speaking my language right now, and I'm enjoying the topic and the information that you're sharing with us and the way that you deliver it to us,
Thank you.
because not often this is a different way of thinking. A lot of people don't like difference. They don't like change, and it's hard to accept that. And when it's hard to accept it, it's hard to understand it. But the way you deliver it makes it acceptable, if
Oh,
that makes any
thank
sense.
you. That is that's what I want to have happen. It is, I really want people to understand that the most important thing you can do is go inside yourself. Now you say, well, what's inside there? I've got my organs of my body. What are you talking about? Within you are answers to all the questions of the universe. Why? Because the whole universe is inside of you. We are holographic images of God. That's why I say made in the image of God. We, not so much our physical body, but our spiritual selves, who we are as spirit, is within us. And that connection is what we were supposed to continue to have when we came into physical body. We weren't supposed to think that we are all alone, because you're not. You always, always have guardian angels with you 100% of the time, 24/7. They are there waiting for you to ask for something. Okay. My guide says we sit there and we twiddle our thumbs, waiting and waiting for somebody to ask for something. And so let's say that you're sitting there and you think, well, I'd really like to have some kind of way to make money that would, fit with my talents and abilities. Okay. Which I wish everybody would ask for. And so your guides, you have a primary guardian angel and other angels that are there to help because they want to help us. All right. That's their job. And you say, I'd really like to have that. That would be just wonderful if I could feel like what I'm doing is not only helping me, but other people. And it just would feel so good. And, it can be anything from art to fixing cars. I don't care what you love. Look at it and see how that can help you move forward and make money and have friends and all the things that you want. So the guides get all excited and they say, okay, so line it all up. They have they put up a little sign in an ice cream parlor. You're walking by the parlor, you see this little sign that go to this little meeting. You think, well, that sounds interesting. And so you start following. It's like a treasure hunt, and you follow the things that the guides have set up for you. And lots of meetings, maybe even somebody will call you out of the blue. It's fascinating what begins to happen when you just even believe it a little bit, or even entertain the idea. Okay. I could tell you about my first list I made of the things I wanted. It was phenomenal. And I will, but let's just finish this thought, because they say that we're there, we start getting all ready, we make all kinds of connections for you. I mean, it's almost instantaneous for the angels to do all that. And then a minute later, you say, oh, but that can't happen. So your guides have to say, stop everything. They just said it can't happen. So what we do is we undermine our futures and what we can have, these amazing probabilities that are out there for you,
Right.
by saying things that stop us from them happening. Should I go ahead and tell about my first adventure with making a list of the things I wanted?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, gosh. Well, I was 22, which is a while ago. And I was very sad because a man that I had been dating had a heart attack. And I was in an elevator of my little apartment building I was in Los Angeles. And there was a man in the elevator, and we were going down. And he looked at me and he said, you look very sad. And he said, I was like you a year ago. I was sitting on a street corner. I'd lost everything. I'd lost everything I had. And this man came up to me and told me to make a list of the things I wanted and the date by which they would happen. And the reason you put a date is so you can look and see, oh, did it happen by that date? If not, why not? Okay. So I listened to him, and he said, the list I made was I would own a building on Wilshire Boulevard. I used to be in real estate. And I had all these things. And the main thing, first thing I wanted was a Thunderbird convertible. So we get downstairs and he says, come with me, look outside. So I look out, and there's this white Thunderbird convertible. He says, that's my car. So he said, why don't you come with me? I'll show you my building. Well, at that time, I guess I was either very naive or just very trusting, and I got in the car. But I kind of think in the back of the head, I thought the roof is down, it's a convertible, I can get out of the car.
Right.
So he drives around the corner onto Wilshire Boulevard, and here's this big building. And he said, this is my building, and I've rented all the office space out. And he says, look, see, and he opened the door. It was on Sunday, and he opened the door, and there was this thing on the wall showing that he'd rented everything. And I thought maybe he was the janitor. That's why he had a key.
Mhm.
So anyway, he told me to make the list. So I made a list, thinking that it didn't mean anything. I put it in a drawer, and I put on the list that I would be living in an apartment at the beach in a couple of months' time. I would be a modeling. I'd be on TV. And on my birthday, this was in March, I think, and my birthday was in December, I'd be driving an XKE, right? All of those things were absolutely impossible. And they all happened by the dates that I put on the sheet. And so then I told everybody about making the list, and they started having things happen. And I really recommend that you do that. So you're just like if you were going to go to a grocery store, you'd have a list possibly. Otherwise, you just go around and you just grab things and go home without what you need. So the idea is make that list of what you would really like in your life and a date. And but then I found that some people, it didn't happen. It partially would happen. And that's when I learned about this parts of you that are saying no. That's what you have to also then, if it doesn't happen, you don't get, you say, I want to be married by next June, okay, as a thought. As if somebody wanted to have a permanent loving marriage, and that was going to happen. And it didn't, but you'd been dating and everything. So what would that part of you that stopped it from happening, what did they believe? And you talk to them and you say, what are you thinking? Why are you stopping? I said, well, I like being free. You know, I don't know if I really want to be in a marriage. Men aren't that trustworthy. Let's say I've got a whole list of beliefs that stop that from happening. And so the whole idea is get to talk to them and say, what if you could meet a man that's trustworthy? What if you had somebody that really, really cared about you? What if you could have, you still felt free to do the things you wanted to do? They weren't commanding you, you know, all the things that you could have. What if they could be turned around and be good? And the other side that says, I really want to be feeling that love. I want to be taken care of. I want to have that whole thing. And you bring them together and you bring them to your heart. And you send them to the creative part of you to come up with ways in which those things can happen, and ask for healing from your higher self and from all parts of you. And it is phenomenal. It's like a shift takes place in your mind, and you just, there you are back together again. And that's what the power of wholeness, the book is. I just get all different examples of how that works in all areas of your life. And so you do coaching also. And I know that you probably work with blocks that are within people. And yeah.
And that's really the root of it, is helping that one particular person find their inner self, find their purpose, sometimes even their identity, so that they can reach that higher power, that more positive way of thinking. Because it's so easy to think negative and beat yourself up.
It is.
Yes. But
Yeah.
once you find your inner person, and it's a bit easier to guide yourself. It's a bit easier to see clarification of things, or even trust your own instincts. Because we all have instincts, but we don't always listen to our instincts. We don't trust ourselves.
Yes. And I have to tell you, if you get anything out of this podcast, if you're watching, 100%, you have to listen to that inner voice, that intuition. And why do I say that? Because they will save your life. When I went down to the parking garage for after work to get my car, and I saw this man, he passed by me. He was dressed in a guard uniform. And I heard a voice in my head say, run, run. And I argued. And, you know, I said, why should I run? It's late. I don't feel like running. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous, like a little kid. And then the man had his arm around my neck and a knife at my throat and started pushing me across the room to the other door. Yes, I said, oh my God, that's why I was supposed to run, you know, and listen very carefully. And so your guides will tell you when you need to run, or you need to turn the wheel in your car. You need to go down this block, not that block. You need to get into a safe place if someone's walking behind you. All these thoughts that come. And so people ask me, well, which thought is it? I got a lot of thoughts going on. It's the first one. The argument is your mind. The argument after that, or the discussion, or whatever the first thing is. And I really recommend listening. My partner, John, who is incredibly intuitive and got even more intuitive, he was doing a part-time job in a building company. And he was moving some materials, and he had been told for 3 days to quit the job. And on that day, 2 other people had been injured, and his guides told him, you know, leave early. He didn't. And a big board fell and hit his nose. And if he had hit it any differently, it would have killed him. But it, you know, moved his nose aside and broke his nose. And they were telling him, why? How do the guides know? Because the guides are like, they're up on a mountain, right? And they can see down what's happening. You're sitting in a building, and like at Starbucks or something, you're having coffee, and they can see who's coming and who's leaving. They can see what's happening around you. And so pay attention, because it's mandatory for our lives and for our success, to tell it to help us and guide us to go where we need to go at the right moment, to meet the right person, to do something that's going to change our lives or make our lives better. So yeah, and the most important thing is to realize you're not alone. You're just not alone. You have a full-time guide that's always been with you, and that guide loves you. The love that is available to you is so huge. If you understood that when you move to the other side, I've been fortunate enough, when I opened to other dimensions in 1987, to just be able to be in that space of the angels. And you can do it through meditation and relaxation. And boy, the love is just overwhelming, and it will heal you. It really will. And one other aspect of healing is your creativity. So many people are not thinking about the creative aspect, and my guide says constantly to allow that energy to come through and work through your hands, or sing, or dance, or do anything that is creative, where you're letting that energy flow through your body and heal you and make you feel great. I learned, about 5 years ago, I had always kind of wanted to do some painting. And I finally saw an easel at Costco that you could buy, right? Just a little easel and some paint. And I went home and I started painting. And John, my partner, is a designer, an architectural designer and an artist. And he saw the painting I did. He says, that's really good. And I'll buy you a bigger easel and some paint and some canvas. And I got to do some really lovely paintings. So it's so fun to do things that you had never done before.
It's always nice to try new things, especially what you're describing as coping skills. So to identify what is your coping skill, what helps you relax, it's always a pleasure.
Yes. And it's just, you have no idea what you can do. And I've heard people say, well, I can't draw a straight line, so I shouldn't do art. Are you kidding me? That doesn't have anything to do with your abilities. And if you look at kids who just get so excited when they see crayons and paper and everything, they just play. And that's what you need to do more of. You need to play and get out of this serious, life or death kind of thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And question, if anybody wanted to contact you, speak more, or purchase your novel, where would they find that information? Is there a website or social media?
Yes, there's a website called creativelifeadventures.com. And also my name, verlainecrawford.com. And they could contact me at verlainecrawford@gmail.com. And I'd love to talk to anybody that has some ideas or questions, and I've been able in the past to be able to look on the other side. After 1987, I was able to see people who have passed on, do mediumship, and also to tell you about past lives. And all of that sounds very strange, at least it used to do to me. And but it's all available to us. All the information that you'd ever want to know is available to you. And I'd love to help anybody that is interested.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Thank you.